Hello, everyone. This is Howard Fox, and welcome back for another episode of the Outdoor Adventure Series, the podcast that celebrates individuals and families, businesses, and organizations that seek out and promote the exploration, stewardship, conservation, access, and enjoyment of the outdoors. Emmanuel Laroche is our guest today. Emmanuel is a food and travel writer. He's a VP of Marketing and Sensory Consumer Insights in the food industry. He is the host of the Flavors Unknown podcast and the author of Conversations Behind the Kitchen Door. I'm getting hungry, by the way. But his newest book really excited me when we met on Podmatch. This book. It's called A Taste of Madagascar, Culinary Riches of the Red Island. And I am so excited to really intermingle two of my favorite hobbies, podcasting in the outdoors and food and travel adventure. So, Emmanuel, welcome to the podcast. How are you?
I'm very well, Howard. Thank you very much for having me on your podcast. I'm really excited to have that conversation at the moment with you.
Fantastic. And first off, I have to say, Happy New Year. I hope you had a wonderful holiday season.
Thank you. Happy New Year to you as well. Yes, it was a very quiet end of the year, which is something I like when I travel quite a lot, like during the year. So having a little break at home, it's pretty exciting for me.
Excellent. And I have to ask here, I don't recognize the accent from anywhere within the continental United States. Where are you located right now?
You don't recognize my Jersey accent? Come on. So I live in Jersey, but yeah, I've been in the US for 23 years now. I am now American, but I am French and American. So originally coming from France.
Fantastic. And I have to say, I am a bit envious as I was reading your biography and researching for the podcast. I mean, you and we share a lot of interest with each other, but you do a lot more traveling for your work than I get to do for mine, even though I have a travel and outdoor adventure podcast, but I'm working on it in my old age. I'm working on it. And but I love the fact that this background of yours, and for our listeners, I think they would enjoy hearing kind of a high-level view of who is Emmanuel Laroche and how did you come to get involved in the food and travel writing space?
Yeah, it started long time ago. I think the food passion started because of my family and my mom. I think my mom got me into food when I was young. I think so. Growing up in France and having the chance to have a mom that loved to cook, so she taught me how to bake and from scratch, like a quiche Lorraine, because she was from that region in France. And so food was always ubiquitous at home. So that always was part of our, let's say, Sunday dinners, vacation destinations, in Europe. I had the chance as well to have siblings that love to cook. So food was, as I said, ubiquitous. And then I think the rest for my, let's say, the beginning of my career, it was kind of a luck situation. It was random. Is that I did a Master of Organic Chemistry and then an MBA and with marketing. And then to validate my MBA, I had to do an internship. And I was living in the south of France at that time. And my former chemistry professor said to me, there's an opportunity at a flavor company in Grasse, Grasse is kind of the hub of the fragrance and the flavor industry in France. And I said, hey, he's looking for someone for a specific project. So I had the chance to got that internship. And I fell in love with that industry. I'm still in that industry like more than 30 years after. And that's something that got me into the intersection of things that I love. So like the chemistry aspect, the food aspect. And then I had the chance to starting traveling, like first in Europe. So I've been from Scandinavia down to Spain, Italy, Germany, and all of that. And then, of course, when the company transferred me to the US in 2002, so 23 years ago, I had the chance to travel all around the country. So I think I've maybe only two states that I haven't visited: Alaska and Montana. That's the only two that are not on that's still on my list, in fact.
Okay. Okay. Well, by the way, if you want to go to Montana or Alaska and need some help, I know a lot of people that are in the
Yeah,
outdoor space, and I think they would love to have you up there.
I would love
Uh,
to. Yeah, we need to chat about this, of course. Yeah,
okay.
absolutely.
Now I have a question for you right off the bat, and it's coming up because of something you just shared and a little bit about your background. And first off, there's no disrespect whatsoever. So it's not a gotcha question. As I get older, I have to watch what I eat.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
And the holidays, I went off a little too much sugar
yeah.
perhaps, but and carbohydrates, but I am a label reader. I have to read
Oh, yeah,
everything that's
sure,
on the
sure.
ingredients.
Yeah,
So within your background and expertise in what you do, what part of that, what content in that label
yeah.
would be your area of expertise?
Sure, good question. So, this is in fact everything which contributes to like the flavor of like an ingredient, like of the formulation of the food. So
Hmm.
when you look at on the label and you see like natural extracts, for instance, that natural flavors, that's the industry I am in.
Okay.
So what we do is, in fact, we are specialized in doing natural extractions from, especially like the major flavors that are tonalities, whatever you call them, in food. So if you take, for instance, beverage, 60% of the beverage industry is really flavored by citrus and
Hmm.
red fruit. So
Hmm.
what we do is that we work, for instance, for citrus with companies that are growing like lemons and oranges in Argentina, in Brazil, in South Italy as well. Um, when you think about like everything sweets and ice cream or dessert, vanilla is important. So
Mm,
that's the connection with Madagascar. I'm sure we're going
of
to talk
course.
about that a
Oh
bit
yeah.
later. But 80% of the production of vanilla comes from Madagascar. So we are there now for more than almost like 20 years now,
Okay.
doing, working with the local farmers and doing extraction of vanilla. So the
Okay.
idea is what we have been doing is focusing on the major tonalities in each like most important, category of food. So if you are looking at maybe soups or packaged food and so on, then onion is an important. Onion is part of all the culinary preparations. So
Right.
we are working with all the farmers in Germany to have access to onion extracts, for
Okay.
instance. So
Okay.
that's
Very nice.
that's the area of expertise.
Very good. I had a feeling we were going to go there, but I thought, okay, I have to ask this.
Yeah,
Now, you mentioned vanilla, and we're going to talk about it
yeah.
deeper in just a moment. But I do want to share there's a bottle in my kitchen, uh, and it started with a bottle of I believe it was vodka. I can't remember. It's been a few months, and there's definitely a couple of what I don't know what you call them, the
Beans,
Madagascar
the vanilla beans.
beans
Yeah. Mhm.
that are soaking in there, so I'm making my
Aha.
own vanilla. But,
Nice.
uh,
That's very good. Yeah.
I love to cook, and so
That's great. So really
eh,
pay attention to those beans because even if I am in that, industry and I've been talking about vanilla from Madagascar for years,
mhm.
I've only been to Madagascar. My first trip was in 2022, just
Wow.
past COVID. And in fact, I took like three American chefs, like two chefs and one mixologist with me to be closer to the source of vanilla. And I have vanilla beans in my kitchen as well. I love to cook, I love to bake. So, but I never really pay attention. I said, oh, this one is a little dry. Okay,
Mm,
throw it in the garbage. But now that I've spent time on the island, that I've seen the farmers, that I've seen all the work that's behind the scenes, all the steps, the craft, the heritage, and so on, I now they are really wrapped into a plastic bag, into like a tin, and I'm very, very, let's say, like paying attention to those beans because I know what it means for those farmers. This is their income. So
Sure.
it's a completely different perspective after the trip, for sure.
Most definitely. And I mean, anytime you go somewhere and visit and you learn about the culture, you bring that home with you. And it's now a part of you, and it
Correct.
causes you, forces you, if I may, to pay closer attention of what it is, where it came from, and how you're using it. And I totally respect that. Totally respect that. Let's get into the book, A Taste of Madagascar, Culinary Riches of the Red Island.
Yeah.
I I paid attention in my geography class and my history class. I know where Madagascar is. I
Good.
know it's it's takes so you have to want to get there because it's not easy.
Yeah.
And I know there is some um, social
Yeah.
things going on as a result of where it's located. However, I am aware of the food origins, and I'm also aware of a Disney. I don't think it was Disney. Maybe it was a movie not too long ago,
I think it
called
was Dream.
Madagascar.
I think it was DreamWorks.
DreamWorks,
Yeah, I think
DreamWorks,
it was.
yes,
Yeah, 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 yeah.
and very funny movie. But that's where my knowledge ended. So
Well,
first off, as someone who has been in the food industry, a professional, a writer, uh, and a researcher, how did this idea for the book A Taste of Madagascar it come about for you?
yeah. So, I mean, first of all, I appreciate the fact that you said that you know where it is, because there's a lot of people, when I said to them that I was writing a book of Madagascar, they were like, oh, the movie? And I'm like, no, it is a country. He said, oh, it exists. I'm like, yeah, look at your, map. And yeah, so it's at, see, maybe for the people that are listening, if they don't know, it's like 250 miles on the southeast side of Africa. So it's like there's the Mozambique Channel that is in between Mozambique's country from Africa and Madagascar. So it's
Mhm.
really like the beginning of the Indian Ocean, which is just to locate. So the book, I had absolutely no idea at all about the book. I went to Madagascar for vanilla, as I explained to you. I launched an extract on the US market because I say I launched the company, but I was responsible because of in charge of marketing with my team to promote it. And I created like a competition with a company called Star Chefs, where in fact we ask chefs and pastry chefs and mixologists from around the country to create, specific recipes, leveraging, illustrating our vanilla extract. And we had almost 100 individuals that participated. And the big prize was to take three of them to the island, so closer to the source of vanilla, which took place in 2002. So I went to the island for vanilla, and I have to say that I stayed, or I came back for like other ingredients that I discovered. During my first trip, I realized that, oh my gosh, there is so many other ingredients that kind of end up at the table of like, or the kitchen of chefs like around the world, and people have no idea. People have heard about vanilla, but that's it. So I came back for pink peppercorn, which is amazing.
Oh yeah.
Madagascar is the second producer of pink peppercorn in the world after Brazil. Then there is endemic wild black pepper that you cannot find anywhere else in the world. That there is as well honey, because of the rich biodiversity of the island. You have specific like honey variety, of lychee, of course, but you have mangrove honey, you have primary forest honey, you have like other trees that obviously I cannot even pronounce the name now. And then I discovered caviar, and I'm like, what? There's caviar in Madagascar? And yes, there's 11 tons of caviar that are produced in Madagascar, which make that caviar the first ever caviar from the Indian Ocean. So
So
I
this
have seen
this
all of this, and I'm like, so just to finish like your question, so when I flew back, from my first trip on the plane, and as you rightfully so said that it takes some time to get there. So 10 hours from Madagascar back to Paris, and then 8 hours from Paris to New York. then I said, you know what? There's probably an idea. I was thinking about what could be my second book after Conversations Behind the Kitchen Door. And I'm saying, that's probably what it is. So I had a chance to, I'm pretty good. Usually I create engaging with people, creating network and so on. And I stay in contact with a lot of people from the island and I Zoom with them and I said, hey, this is what I would like to do. And they were so excited. I said, okay, when are you coming back? So I was back in June 2023, in fact. So
Okay.
for the second
Okay.
trip.
By the way, Emmanuel, I am an opportunistic podcaster. All right. And so when you go back, if you'd like another podcaster with you, I'm your guy.
Okay.
Just putting
Okay.
that out there.
Yeah.
When I'm not podcasting, I'm coaching, and one of my mantras for my clients is often what you think about, you bring about. So I'm just putting that out there.
Okay.
But I thought something that really surprised me as I was preparing, and you just mentioned it, the sturgeon. And
Hmm.
I'm aware of caviar, and I'm aware that caviar is harvested from the sturgeon,
Hmm.
but it was predominantly Russian.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. Yeah. So Russian, Iranian as well. From Iran, there's a lot of caviar from there. There's as well, in fact, some in France, and that's the connection with the one in Madagascar because there's three individuals that created that company. They are French, and they have been in Madagascar for 30 years. They
Hmm.
they have invested in a completely different industry in textile, and they have been very successful. And they were looking at reinvesting, and they have seen a documentary about the caviar from France, from the Aquitaine region, which is the southwest. And they
Hmm.
said, like, oh, so let's look at this. Maybe we can do something similar. If we find like the ideal conditions, like with a lake with pristine water, and when they spend time, like discovering like different areas and so on. And yeah, they found the lake, and now there's a farm with 13 different pools for
Hmm.
like really the baby sturgeon from 0 to 2 years, and then
Hmm.
from 2 years to 6 years, where in fact 6 years is of age. This is when they can start collecting caviar. They are in big net in that there's 53, 160 feet wide
Hmm.
net on the lake. And this is where all the sturgeons and the different type of sturgeons are. So I had the
Okay.
chance in. So what happened is I met those three individuals on my first trip randomly in an evening party that we put together with the American chefs and the local chefs from Madagascar. And caviar was on the menu, and I engaged with them, and they say, "Hey, why don't you come back and we invite you at the farm, and you can visit." And that's what I did on my second trip. So, and it's
Okay.
one chapter of the book now.
Okay. Now, with the caviar in mind, whether it is for yourself as with your culinary background, or perhaps one of the chefs or the that you brought with you, or one of the local chefs. For someone like me, I'm going to be honest. I probably have tried caviar a couple times. I can count it on one hand. What would be a way to prepare caviar that you'd want to introduce this to a wider audience? This caviar from Madagascar.
Yeah, so I mean, this is so you can find it, in Europe, obviously distributed. They are finalizing a distribution in here in the US.
Okay.
There is the caviar from Madagascar in the US that you can find. The brand Petrusian, which is a very famous, company, has caviar coming from Madagascar
Hmm.
here in the US. So you can find it. So it has a very interesting profile. It has a little bit of like hazelnut, profile, obviously, this saline, taste, of course, iodine and so on. But it's very clean, the one from Madagascar, because there's no off notes that could come from sometime algae that are growing, in the bottom of the lake. There's
Right.
none because Madagascar, that's why in the title it's called like the Red Island on my subtitle.
Uh-huh.
All the soil is very red. It's because of the laterite content.
Right.
And then there's not a lot of algae that grows in that lake. So there's no off notes, then to to the fish and then to the caviar.
Okay.
And so, but the idea is that you can really do a lot of different. It's easy to add like a little spoon, of caviar on, like if you do poached eggs, for instance, you can add a little spoon of caviar on top. If you do, uh, you know, uh, like roasted potatoes, and you can as well add caviar on top of it. If you love oysters, you can, after you open your oysters, you can put some caviar on top, and if you do them Rockefeller style,
Okay.
it's at the end when you take the oyster out of the oven, you can as well add a little bit of the caviar on top. So that's the way I love those. I love the Rockefeller oysters with a little spoon
Okay.
of
By the way, you are definitely making me hungry right now. So it's all your fault. And thank you for sharing that. And I love the fact that listeners, myself, we're learning something brand new. And that's the as we were talking before that we started in the questionnaire that I used, the aha moment. The aha for me is, oh wow, because right now I'm thinking my roommate's best friend loves to make deviled eggs.
uh-huh.
And
Yeah.
there's a store nearby that I'm sure has this caviar. Okay, let's make some deviled eggs
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
we'll put a little caviar on it.
So be just mindful of not making your devil eggs too spicy,
Okay.
because otherwise it's going to
Yes.
the taste of the caviar. So you
Okay.
don't want to do that, especially that usually caviar is not cheap.
Th-
So you,
Very
you want
good.
to
I
make
will
sure
be
that you can
mindful of
try.
that. Regarding the vanilla, and then I do want to go further into the book and how it's
Sure.
organized.
Yeah.
Is vanilla just one style or type? I'm sure there's a more scientific word, but are we talking one tree? Or are we talking multiple kinds of trees where the bushes where the vanilla is being cultivated and grown?
Yeah. So I mean, there's two different types that there's the Tahitian one and the one from originally from Mexico. So this is the one from Mexico here that we are talking about, which is the most important in terms of the variety, around the world. So for if people are interested and they want to know more, vanilla is in fact a vine. It's an orchid. So it's a vine that grows like around, like a support, like could be like a tree, for instance.
Mhm.
So it usually grows like into kind of a shaded area. And what makes it really interesting, and maybe people don't know about it, it's hand pollinated.
Mm,
So the reason and the little story is the following. As I said, Madagascar, vanilla comes from Mexico originally.
mhm,
There, it was pollinated, or it is still pollinated by a little insect. And when people took, in fact, French people took the vanilla, I'm talking like a long time ago, and then they travel around the world, and then they planted, vanilla to try in other tropical areas. They realized that there was no beans. Yes, there was flowers, but that's it. So what happened is that they realized that they took the insect with them, but the insect never survived
mm,
outside of Mexico. So all the vanilla that comes from Madagascar, it's 80% of the global production, but you have some in Indonesia, you have some in other a little bit in some country in Africa, but it's very, very small. All of that has to be hand pollinated. So during the season, which is usually in Madagascar about like end of September, beginning of October, then in the morning when the orchid flower of vanilla like blossom and open, then you have most of the time women because you need to have like smaller, I would say, fingers, and
mhm.
then they go and they hand pollinate flower by flower,
Oh,
and
wow.
each flower will produce, like a vanilla bean. So
Okay.
that's the reason why that I look at vanilla beans completely differently now that I'm back.
That's
because I know what it takes.
very labor intensive
Very
and
labor intensive. Yeah.
justifiably why a good quality vanilla bean
Yeah.
is not inexpensive. Okay.
True.
How I'm saving my favorite food question for the end. I just want you to know that. Uh,
Okay. I'm
how is the
curious now.
book or how is the book organized for the reader, and what are some of the highlights they will find in the book from a cultural standpoint, the pictures as well as the recipes? How is the book organized for the reader?
Yeah. So thank you for asking. In fact, I looked at it almost from like a tasting menu. It's each chapter is celebrating an ingredient. So I went like there's a chapter on vanilla, a chapter on cocoa, a chapter on caviar, a chapter on honey, another one on spices. So the wild black pepper, the pink peppercorn, cloves as well. There's a chapter on the hunchback cattle called a zebu, which is we talk. I come back to it because of the culture aspect that you just asked. So all of that. So the entry point is the ingredient, but
Mhm.
then I wanted to make sure that people that will not have the chance to go to Madagascar, they can relocate those ingredients into the landscape of the island. It's an island where there's like 30 million people living. It's the fourth largest islands, on the planet. So it's not small at all. It's the size
No.
of Texas about. And
Well,
then and the idea is that there's a wide variety of landscape. So I thought it was interesting as well to talk about the discovery of the landscape as it relates to the ingredients. And of course, the most important for me is people,
right.
because behind each of these ingredients, there is a human story. There is the story of the farmers, there's the story of the beekeepers, and all those people that are taking care of those ingredients, making sure that they will stay and remain through their, generations, and that we will continue to enjoy it, outside of the island, because most of these ingredients are exported.
Right.
So that's the way how the book is structured. And then I decided as well to, let's say, illustrate those ingredients with recipes. So some people made the comments, oh, but they are not like basic recipes, from maybe people that are making food in Madagascar. There's a reason is because people don't use vanilla in Madagascar, which is kind of a shock for us when we went there, because 99% of the vanilla is exported and it's not part of
Uh,
their culture. So they
right.
don't use. That was one of my questions to one of the farmers that I interviewed. And I said, so explain to me vanilla in your day to day. He said, that's money. I said, what do you mean? So how do you use it? He said, we don't. And I said, oh, wow. So in fact, there's no smell of vanilla, in bakery, in Madagascar. The chefs were expecting to find, spa that we smell like vanilla. None of that. It's not part of the culture. So it's really a currency for them. And those recipes for me were an illustration that there is innovation that is made by some of the chefs in Madagascar. So recipes are more chefs level. There's chefs from the US, chefs from France, and chefs from Madagascar that were very, very kind to give me the recipes for the book. So there's about 20 recipes, in the book.
Okay.
So
Was there a part of writing the book or preparing to write the book that were you found the most challenging, and whether it was just time was not available or just not enough of it, or the ingredient was very special and maybe not in season? What was that challenge that you kind of faced in writing the book?
yeah, just from the writing process, that's not really the hard part. Already from my first book, I have my systems where, in fact, I interview people. So I have my recorder, I have my mics, I travel
Mhm.
with them. I have my little notebook because for me, it's important to write down the impression, the feelings, things that I experience. because even if I take pictures, I will have lost, maybe 6 months after, like, my real reaction to something. So I like to write that down. So I have all those, elements, for writing. So that's not too much of an issue. The hardest one was that chapter on these hunchback cattle, the zebu, because it's not only a food ingredient, it is a cultural symbol. It is an economic assets. It's a spiritual connector to the ancestors there. So you have to keep in mind that there's like 18 tribes still in Madagascar, in living in remote parts away from the capital, and especially in the south, some of the tribes were kind of in charge of taking care of those hunchback cattles,
Mhm.
and they they are measuring their wealth based on the number of heads of those hunchback cattle that they
Mhm.
have. And someone that will have like 20 of those zebus are considered like a rich person, to their standard. And there's still like this symbol, a spiritual symbol of or cultural symbol where people will sacrifice one of those hunchback cattle if someone there's a death in the family, or if someone is marrying one of their daughter. For instance, so they will invite like all the village and all the family members, and they will eat for several days, from that cattle. So
Okay.
that was for me the most difficult, because I had to have a different lens of
Mhm.
writing it, and and that's why as well that was part of my third trip that I made this year. The last trip was in May in
Mhm.
25, or this
Yeah.
year, sorry, last year now, 2025, and my main contact that became my friend there took me to the south part of the islands, where I was able to go to one of the largest markets where all those hunchback cattle are sold. And then I had the chance to meet as well and interview a chief from one of the Bar tribe. That was, kind of very impressive, because there's still. So when I say when I was invited in his home, you have to imagine it's a little hut, built with like dirt and soil, and so it's very basic. There's only two rooms in there, and you
Mhm.
sit on the dirt, on the ground, and then asking a lot of questions around the impact of those hunchback cattle in their day-to-day life, and the fact as well there's still rituals of rite of passage, for like the male, I would say, teenagers to adulthood, where in fact they are sent to steal cattle from other villages, and sometimes there's fights, and there's people died. So
Okay.
it was an interesting conversation, and not an easy chapter to write.
Sure. Okay. Well, I mean, you definitely immerse yourself in the local culture. I mean, from that story
Yeah.
and those experiences. And I'm curious, is with the origin of some of the foods that are available, the vanilla, the caviar, the peppercorns, the honeys, the lychees, and even on the table behind a picture behind me with the table, it seemed like lots of fruits and vegetables,
Yeah.
potatoes, looks like potatoes of sorts. What, as you were traveling and having conversations and experiencing, do you find that Madagascar as a destination, I mean, it's not like I'm going to go to Paris and I'm going to go shopping. I'm going to go to the Eiffel Tower, the Champs Elysees.
Yeah.
I'm going to go to the Louvre. You kind of have to. I mean, I think you need to slow down there in those locations. I want to sit down at a cafe on a square and have cups of espresso coffee and
Yeah.
just sit and watch people.
Yeah.
And this idea of slowing down.
Hmm.
to really enjoy the culture and the people and the environment. Is Madagascar ready for that kind of tourism, for people to come and visit, not be takers, but just be there in the moment?
It's a great question, and in fact, there's two different aspects, for me thinking about how to answer it. There's um, slowing down is there's no other way of doing it because the states of the roads in Madagascar are not the best in certain areas. And for instance, on my last trip in May, I with my friend, we had like a four-wheel drive, and then we it took us like 30 hours, 30 hour to do about 500 miles, and it was nonstop. So we left, at the end of the day, we drove the whole night, no sleeping. We just stopped for bio breaks and a little bit of food, and then we arrive at the end of the next day on the other side of the island. So slowing down, there's no other choice of doing this, which in fact for me was something I learned on my first trip because I like to organize things, I have to plan things, and usually I come from France. I live near New York, so it's like chop chop, So I'm like, oh, it's not going to work. So I was forced to slow down. I was forced to embrace the rhythm of nature because on one of the trip I had to cross like 10 different rivers
Mm,
in one day, and there's only like it's not a ferry, yeah. It's a little metallic boat, with one motor, and or sometime there's only like a rope, and then you have to pull the rope in order
mhm,
to make the boat move from one side of the river to the other. So slowing down is the rhythm of Madagascar.
okay.
Now, I will not compare the experience in Madagascar like going to Paris. You cannot do that. I mean, your podcast is about outdoors, and I think that Madagascar is definitely, if you love outdoors, this is great. You just have to be mindful. You have to go there with people that are from the island that know places where to go, not where to go, and because there's risk. For instance, they didn't allow me to rent a car and be on my own. I had like rent a car with a driver
Mhm,
that knew the area, or travel with my friend or the person that became my friend after 3 trips. But so yeah, it's a different kind of experience. It's wild, so for
mhm,
sure. I mean, the capital, Antananarivo, is fine. You have like international hotel chains. You have fantastic restaurants. You have a lot of things to discover. So that's one thing. But if the beauty of Madagascar is to go to the national park. There's national parks with amazing sites. If you like, hiking, if you like nature, you have to get out of the capital. But you need to have like a trip being structured for sure.
okay. Now, have you been able to take advantage of that aspect, the slow t tourism aspect of Madagascar, going to these parks and just being there in the moment and just stopping and looking and listening?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. On my first trip, when I sent like I stay after like the American chef, went back to the US, and the rest of my team as well. I stayed for an extra week, and I went to the west side of the island because there is a fantastic landmark called Baobab Alley. So the
Oh, yeah,
baobab is those like tree of life,
the
those
tree.
giant trees, which
Yeah,
it's called sometimes the upside down tree because the top of the tree looks like the roots, but in fact they are the branches. And there's a whole area where there's like 100 of them, and I had the chance. I was afraid that there would be a lot of tourists, but for a little story that I'm not going to detail here. It's too long, but people will read it in the book. It's an interesting story. In fact, my connection was delayed, from the town where I landed to that area. And I arrived, in fact, at the moment there was no one. So I was alone almost, among those three giants. And that was something amazing. And the driver dropped me at the beginning of the road. And then, I was able to walk slowly, among those giants. And that was very, I would say, emotional. And for me, it was very special because of the history of France and Madagascar, because it was one of the colony from France, until 1960. I've seen those trees in like school books I grew up with, or I was doing a lot of stamp collections when I was a kid. So I had those those baobab trees on stamps. So I had like these childhood memories as well. So that was really unique. So that was one of the moments that was really great. And then on that same trip, I took a 9 hours ride on the dirt road, and I went into a park called Singi, and this is this famous rock like structures that are like almost like very thin of like rocks and so on that you have to climb, and that I was able to do some rock climbing there for about 5 hours, and that was amazing. That was I stayed there. I slept into a very nice little hotel that was not too far, and so I stayed there two nights, and I was able to go on the river as well with like a boat that was carved into like a trunk, of a tree trunk.
Mhm.
So yeah, there's some moments that are like unique that I will always remember for sure.
Okay. Very nice. Now I have a question, and now we're going to get into. I always have to ask for anybody that travels. I am a coffee fanatic. I love my
Uh-huh.
coffee.
Yeah.
I love roasting my own coffees, and I
Mm-hmm.
especially love coffee from Africa. Rwanda is
Sure.
perhaps my favorite. However, Madagascar,
Mm-hmm.
are they also known for their coffee cultivation?
Yeah. And that's one of my regrets, in fact, that I don't have a chapter on coffee, just because I didn't have the time to, and the area where coffee grows. So there is a lot of Robusta, sorry, and then there is as well a little bit of Arabica coffee in Madagascar. And I think I still have maybe a bag here. So if we see each other in Vegas, maybe I'll bring you a bag,
Right.
and then you can roast it. But
Okay.
yeah, no, it's very good. I had the chance, especially in the different restaurant and hotel in Antananarivo, in the capital,
Hmm.
to this, in fact, the local coffee that you can taste. So it's really good. I like
Very
it a lot.
nice.
Yeah,
So I can imagine. I'm a morning person. I love to have my coffee early in the morning,
yeah,
just as the sun is coming up, the birds are out, and just seeing the sunrise light up, the landscape, and and seeing those trees. As I was searching for a background for my for the podcast, I
yeah.
came across the Baobab trees. I thought, oh, that's very iconic. I know what they are. I've seen them before. I've never seen them in person, but I've seen
Sure.
photos.
Yeah.
But I thought, now that's where I want to have my cup of coffee. It's, it's in a park like that. As you as you present the book and it's the chapters and share these experiences and the recipes and and educate the reader as well. And what would be your insight that you would want to leave with, say, our listeners about why Madagascar?
So yeah, I mean, why Madagascar? It's because there's a lot of those ingredients that are coming from this island that no one has really a clue beside vanilla. Maybe you have pink peppercorn um, in your kitchen, and it might come from Madagascar. Or there is chocolate, that will contain, some origin Madagascar.
Mhm.
So for me, it's the idea of I put like really the light on Madagascar because of those products, and that people understand as well that there is life, there is human, behind those products. And then we are enjoying the products, especially vanilla. And this is part of our heritage, this is our nostalgic flavor,
Mhm.
when we smell, vanilla in when we bake, it brings back to our childhood memory and maybe time that we were with our grandparents or our parents in the kitchen. If we want to continue this, we need to understand where it's coming from. We need
Mhm.
to understand that there's livelihood, like, behind this. And then we need to make sure that those people are, I would say, protected, and that we support, one way or another, their life, because then we can continue to enjoy those products. So this is probably the main idea. And it is about Madagascar, but I think that we should really pay more attention in general to like the food ingredients, that we have in our kitchen or that are used in restaurants, and understand, maybe be a bit more curious and understand, where they are coming from, and what does that mean, then that we sustain, I would say, the production of those ingredients that we love.
Excellent. I love that. And I think here in the States, we take things for granted and we don't realize we could have done it better if we had known its origins and the why, as opposed to just the taking. And, so when I am using up my vanilla in these recipes, I'm going to be thinking about that. Or if I drink a cup of Madagascar coffee, I'm going to
Yes.
be thinking about that. By the way, right after the show's over and the episode is processed, I'm going out to the internet saying, where can I go? Who's got Madagascar green coffee beans that I can roast? So, but I love that. This has been an absolute pleasure to have you on the podcast, Emmanuel. I
Thank you
hope
for
you
having me. Thank you for
enjoyed
having
it.
me. I really enjoyed it. Yeah,
Excellent. And if our listeners would like to learn more about you and the
sure.
book, A Taste of Madagascar, Culinary Riches of the Red Island, where's the best place to go?
Yeah, so they can go, on the website. Easy. It's a tasteofmadagascar.com.
Okay.
They can find the book anywhere online, where people purchase, books, or their local bookstore. They can ask for it. Um, and otherwise, they can listen to my podcast if they are interested to hear a story about food. I'm focusing on acclaimed chefs and pastry chefs and mixologists from around the US. It's called Flavors Unknown. So again, it could be at flavorsunknown.com, or on any podcast platform where people listen to podcasts. And then they can follow me on Instagram, which is Flavors Unknown as well, or Facebook, Flavors
Excellent. Well,
Unknown.
we will provide all those backlinks in our show notes. And I really, again, want to
Thank you.
thank you and thank the great folks at Podmatch for helping to facilitate this
Yeah,
introduction. I hope we get to cross paths again. And, you know,
absolutely.
and there's an idea for another podcast episode percolating right now, just to keep coffee on the top of the radar. But thank you again for spending time this first week or first couple days into the new year, and really excited to be able to share this episode with our listeners. And I'm excited for you and this great book. I can't wait to pick up a copy of it and see the recipes and see the photos and just to learn more about Madagascar. Thank you so
Thank,
much.
thank you, Howard. Thank you very much.
All right. Listen, stay in the line. We're going to do a quick close and you and I can have a final chat. Okay.
Sure.
All right, folks. What a fantastic episode. I only have fantastic episodes. What can I say? And wonderful guests. We met Emmanuel Laroche from Podmatch. He is the author of A Taste of Madagascar, Culinary Riches of the Red Island. Emmanuel is a food and travel writer, and just works for in his history of how he got into this industry, and really how he's taking just the education and knowledge and appreciation of some of the foods we just perhaps take for granted. What are some of those origins and where are they coming from? And hopefully we can learn to truly appreciate the effort that it took to get it to our table. Now, we do want to encourage you to go out and visit Emmanuel's website, tasteofmadagascar.com. We're also going to provide links to his social sites, Facebook and Instagram. And of course, my new favorite podcast, Flavors Unknown. And we'll provide links back to all three of those on our show notes. As for us, you can find this episode on our website, outdooradventureseries.com. We are also on LinkedIn and Facebook, the Outdoor Adventure Series, and you can find the video of this episode up on our YouTube channel. Of course, wherever you are traveling to, whether it's by foot, by bike, by car, plane, you can listen to this podcast episode wherever you get your podcast from. Okay, folks, wherever you are, whatever you're doing, go out there and have a fantastic day. Have a great start to your new year. And we look forward to having you join us on future episodes of the Outdoor Adventure Series podcast. Take care now.